Exits. Hello, everybody. This is Rod, your captain speaking. We are currently 30,000 feet in the air, and we haven't even left the airport. We just lit the joint. Just kidding, a little pilot humor there. We like to have fun. Our destination today is Casablanca, Morocco. So everyone, sit back, fasten your seatbelts, and prepare for takeoff. We will.
Are you looking for a better way to play player props or daily fantasy sports? Well, look no further than Prize Picks. Prize Picks is the leading over-under daily fantasy game. Why? Because it's so easy to use and win. You can make your picks in under 30 seconds and win up to 10 times your money in one day. Right now, we have a special offer for our viewers and listeners of the 7-Footers podcast. All you have to do is sign up now and use the promo code 7-Footer, and Prize Picks will match your first deposit up to $100. Yep, that's right. They'll match your first deposit up to $100. So, join the over 150,000 others who found a better way to play and download the Prize Picks app today.
Seven Footers crew, what is happening? How is everybody? We hope well. How you doing over there, Jarod?
I'm good, man. Enjoying this summertime weather. You know, the weather's fine. Everybody trying to be outside, getting their summertime party on. That's what I'm doing. NBA off season. So, you know, we're doing good.
That's right. You said it. The NBA offseason, which means we have seen a champion be crowned, and that is the dynasty that is the Warriors. They beat the Celtics in 6 games. Game 6 there wasn't too much of a nail biter, really, 103-90. It was pretty much decided later on in the series. But, hey, the Celtics gave it a good go. In the beginning, I was like, wait, are they going to do this? They might do this.
They had a chance, but, you know, Golden State showed their championship medal.
Of course they did. Of course they did. But again, Celtics have a lot to be proud of in this offseason, building off of that run there in the finals. So good for them. And of course, congratulations, Steph Curry, finals MVP, added it to the resume. So now we can shut the hell up about all the narratives. So you know that one was drowned out. Your girl loves a good narrative, but that one was too much.
Yeah, I mean, like we talked about last week on the show, yes, the Warriors are great. We told you Steph Curry's great. Like, I mean, winning finals MVP, that's just a silly thing that people out there in the Twitterverse like to argue about. That does not change who he is as a player. He's always been that dude.
Big facts. So let's move on because we also had the NBA draft, okay? I mean, it didn't stop. It went right through there. And again, that's that revised schedule that we're playing out here to get back to old times. But anyway, let's talk about the draft, Jarod. What did you think? I mean, the guys came through dripping. The confidence was high, but were there winners? Who were the winners? Who were the losers?
Yeah, there were definitely winners. Look, I thought the top 3 went as we all expected, right? With well, maybe not in the order you expected, but the 3 people who were in the top 3 is who we expected, right? We expected Paolo, we expected Chet, and we expected Jabari. Right now, maybe not in that order, but that's who we thought was going to go top 3. You know, in Orlando, I thought played this well. They kept the cards, held their cards close to the chest. Nobody knew who they were going to pick. And then it comes out, they take Paolo Banchero from Duke, and I think it's a great pickup for them. Chet going to Oklahoma City. You know, they have 1,000 picks and all this cap space. And, you know, Jabari, who maybe thought he was going 1, fell down to 3rd to Houston. And
he was sweating there. Did you see him there?
I did. I saw him. He was looking a little sad. then he got the call that was Houston. So you saw him perk up a bit. And look, if you know, the NBA is an ultra competitive league, Jenna. Guys, I mean, you got to be a dog to make it in this league. So whatever chip on his shoulder he needs. So if he's going to be like, oh, y'all doubted me by choosing me 3rd and not, okay, cool. Whatever's going to motivate you to work as hard as you need to work. Cue the Jordan meme. I took that personally. Cool. Whatever it is, you know, get yourself together and, you know, he'll be all right. But I think those 3 teams acquitted themselves well with who they took in the top 3.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more there. I mean, pretty much standard of how we thought it would go, but a little bit of shuffling there in the top 3. So who do you think won the draft? What team do you think is going to benefit the most here?
I liked what Detroit did.
Not the Knicks?
Oh, we'll get to the Knicks in a minute. Getting Jaden Ivey and Jalen Duren, I thought was a hell of a pickup for Detroit. They knew who they wanted, went after them, and they got their men. So I was impressed with what they did. I thought, again, those guys in the top 3 grabbing who they grabbed in terms of Paolo, Chet, and Jabari. Great pickups by the 3 of them. And I just think that ultimately those teams, to me, probably did the best. I do think Charlotte getting Mark Williams at 15, they got lucky. Because Mark Williams is really good, and a lot of people aren't. Problem with the draft, as I said to Jenna last week, fans boo because they're like, I never heard of this guy, he sucks, whatever. And it's like, as I said last week, it's not about that. Boo your team because they suck at player development. That's your problem, not who got drafted. Everybody that got drafted is talented. But the question is, does your team have the right things in place to develop and get the most out of that player? Some teams do. Most of y'all don't.
You kill me.
It's true.
What was that? I saw a call on my way home, actually, from work. MJ calling Mark, who you just,
Mark Williams.
Yeah. And he was like, I still take pride. Something like, I'm paraphrasing, but he's like, I still take pride even though you're a dookie.
Oh, yeah, because MJ's, listen, MJ can't let nothing slide. That dude going to carry grudges till he's 1,000 years old. That's
for real, though.
Who he is, right? So, of course, the Carolina Duke connection, of course, is going to rib him and do all that. Look, Charlotte's one of those teams, and I'm like, do y'all know what y'all doing? Can you incubate and get guys right? We'll see. We'll see what happens. I'm not very optimistic. I think he's very good. Hopefully, he and his work ethic overcomes the garbage that is that organization in terms of development, but we'll see.
All right. So last Thursday was the draft. It's never ending, Jarod, because this Thursday is officially the start of free agency.
Oh, wait, before we go to free agency, the Knicks, gotta talk about them.
Sorry, I kind of did that on purpose.
As far as losers, look, they traded out of the draft, right? So they didn't pick anybody, and so remember how I said Paolo, the Magic played it well because they held their cards close to the vest and no one knew what they were going to do. Conversely, everybody knew what the Knicks wanted. Fucking the janitor down the hall knew that they wanted Jaden Ivey. And I'm just like, I don't understand how it is that y'all just let your plans be out there so everybody knows what's going on. This is the draft. You got to be in stealth mode. You got to remember, we were for months. We were like, oh, the Knicks want Jaden Ivey. It's like, why does everyone know this? Why does everyone know your business? And then you couldn't get them. Obviously, you tried. They wouldn't take the deal, whatever. So you end up trading out. You move the Kemba Walker contract, and that's all well and good. You got to give up future draft picks for that. Yeah, you got back 3 firsts who were lightly protected. But Jenna, this team who I thought a year ago was making smart decisions, they're falling back down that rabbit hole, Jenna, of what are y'all doing?
Staying consistent. At least that's what they're doing.
Yeah, staying consistently stupid with what they do. I just, look, we'll get to them in free agency, but wow. Yeah, wow. That's all I gotta say.
God. Wow. I didn't know if there was anything coming. I was okay. Let me give him a second.
It's just wow. I mean,
that's all you can say.
My cousin who's the Knicks fan is like, see. He's like, he goes to me. It's like, Jarod, see, that's your problem being an objective journalist. You think you see opportunities and you're like, ooh, they're doing smart things, whatever. I'm a cynical 25-year long-suffering Knicks fan. I know they do dumb shit. So I don't get excited about anything because I know they're going to mess it up. And I'm like, you know what? Maybe you're right. That's the attitude you got to have. You're a Knicks fan. They're always going to do dumb things. And it's a shame.
It's made us tough.
I mean, something.
Hey, so consensus losers of the draft, the New York Knicks.
Yeah, for sure.
Right. So again, like I said, last Thursday we had the draft. Now this Thursday, 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, it is kicking off free agency. Mm-hmm. And the rumblings in the news have already been wild, from the Phoenix Suns to, of course, the Knicks throwing their names up in there per usual. And then, the list goes on. And of course, the domination of the Kyrie Irving news.
God.
Will he show up to work? Will he not? We'll see. So let's get into free agency here, Jarod, because I would love to know your thoughts. Mm-hmm. What key moves do you think that we are definitely going to be seeing?
So I think someone is going to put a nice offer sheet in front of DeAndre Ayton. We know that the situation in Phoenix got bad at the end of last year, but it really started in the offseason the year prior when they did not give him his rookie extension.
Yeah, last October.
And ultimately, when he does leave, which I think he will this summer via an offer sheet or a sign and trade or whatever, that story is going to come out about what the real deal is and what happened there in Phoenix, because something just was weird, man. He was fine. He was the good soldier during the regular season, played well, dominant, doing all his stuff. Then there was that postseason, that epic collapse against the Dallas Mavericks, where he played like,
that was wild.
Only in the first half. Monty didn't.
Yeah,
he and Monty got into a dust up on the sideline. Didn't play at all in the second, and it's just like, all right, something went wrong somewhere. We heard little reports that like Monty is not his biggest fan, but I'm like, there's got to be more to it than Monty just not being a fan of him. Something somewhere went haywire and went awry, and we will find out ultimately, I think, when he does leave this summer, which I think he will. So yeah, Ayton's going to move somewhere. I'm a firm believer in that. I don't think people like, so Zach LaVine, like he's staying in Chicago. Like I don't see him going anywhere.
Yeah.
Bradley Beal, like, you know, this.
Yeah. What's the deal with Beal?
This whole idea about
free I didn't mean to rhyme.
free Bradley Beal. It's like, no, like Bradley Beal's decided what he wants. He wants money. Like he doesn't care about going to a team to help win. Because if he did, he would have left already or moved his way out of there, right? And put more pressure on the Wizards GM and ownership. So he's staying in Washington and going to collect that bag. Dame probably staying in Portland. Like I don't see it. Because the other thing too, Jenna, is that there aren't enough teams with cap space, right? I mean, Detroit, Indiana, the Knicks can make some more space. I mean, there aren't a ton of teams that have cap space. So, you know, we're limited, right? It's Detroit, Indiana, Orlando, San Antonio. And I don't see any of those teams going after anybody with a big salary and Oklahoma City, of course, can also make space because they don't want to tie themselves to middle-aged or, you know, by middle-aged, I mean like late 20s or early 30s supermax guys. They got young guys on those rosters, and they want to build around the young talent. So I don't see any of those teams, you know, trying to get a guy like a Levine or a Beal or any of these dudes.
Oh, back to Ayton really quick, because there's reports, of course, that are out there saying that the Pistons are going to try to pursue him super heavy. So what are your thoughts about that? I mean, imagine, say they get Ayton, and then you have Cade Cunningham, and like the list goes on. We just recapped it with the draft. Like, I mean, there could be something in Detroit.
So you're saying
random factories.
You're saying Detroit get Ayton? You're saying, is that what you're saying?
If they were to get Ayton.
It's interesting because. So with Jalen Duren now, I don't know if they want Ayton, right? Because they could for sure, but they already kind of have a big man that's kind of more in line with the timeline of the guys they have. Cade, now Jaden Ivey, Sadiq Bey, etc. Of course, they made the Jeremy Grant trade. Now, Jalen Duren may never be as good as DeAndre Ayton is right now, right? Like he may not, but maybe his higher upside. Who knows? And if they do make that DeAndre Ayton move, then that's telling me they think they have a shot of like not only making the playoffs this year, but maybe even think they could win around. Here's the challenge, Jenna, not challenge, but like what happens after a season and the offseason. Teams, either rightly or wrongly, fool themselves into thinking there's something that they may not be, right? So, and Detroit probably looks at a team like Cleveland, right? And they were like, yo, the Cavaliers were great this year. Had it not been for an injury at the end, the Cavs were the number 3 team in the Eastern Conference in January, right?
Ballin'.
Had Jared Allen not gotten hurt, they probably make the playoffs, right? And that's with Evan Mobley, Darius Garland, right? Jared Allen, who I mentioned, right? A young team. So Detroit probably looks at them and is like, that team's kind of like us, right? We got Cade Cunningham. We got Jaden Ivey now. So if we get a DeAndre Ayton type, maybe so maybe they convince themselves we can be that team going forward. Maybe they can, maybe they can't. I don't know. But that's the challenge when you're a front office and you're working and you're trying to figure out, okay, who are we as an organization, right? Are we just going to get on this timeline with these young kids and let them develop? Or do we think all we need is like that DeAndre Ayton piece, and with those young guys, we can challenge for the playoffs this year And right now, who knows?
Very, very interesting. And I can't wait to see certain teams just make some dumb moves, and then you're going to just go off, and it's going to be amazing.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
for
Yeah.
real. You wrote the word scuttlebutt in the rundown. I chuckled, but I had to bring it up. So let's talk about the scuttlebutt around Jalen Brunson in Dallas there, because his dad is part of the Knicks. There's rumors that he might go to the Knicks, and that Dallas pretty much is very aware of that. So what's the deal?
I think it's a foregone conclusion, right? Like, let's just do a little bit of the connect the dots here. Rick Brunson, Jalen's dad, Leon Rose used to be his agent. Leon Rose also used to be Jalen Brunson's agent.
Yes.
Leon Rose, William Wesley, who's the Knicks special advisor, Rick Brunson. Those guys go way back and know each other a long time. William Wesley and Leon Rose have known Jalen Brunson since he was born. They added his dad to their staff.
Recently.
Why do we think that is? Well, perhaps because they want to get Jalen Brunson, which, again, in a vacuum, Jenna, there's nothing wrong with Jalen Brunson. He's a perfectly fine player. But if you are the Knicks, what does that do for you? You're not a team that's like winning 48 to 52 games every year and you're in the playoffs consistently like that.
He's not like one player away from making a real difference.
Right. Like that's not what they are. They're still trying to figure out, what do we have in RJ Barrett? What do we have in Obi Toppin? What do we have in Quentin Grimes? Quickly, Jericho Sims, all these young dudes. Like, what are we going to do with Julius Randle? Like, what are they? Right. And so to me, Jalen Brunson what's he going to get you? 2 more wins, maybe a season, 1.5. And at 4 years, $100 million. Now, in the long run, as the salary cap continues to increase, that may not be a big deal. But 4 years, $100 million for a small point guard, Jenna, like, how does that bring you value? I don't see it, right?
Yeah.
And remember, this is Jalen Brunson doing this last year, playing next to Luka Doncic. Ain't nobody on the Knicks anywhere near as talented as Luka Doncic, okay?
Right. And I think people need to also differentiate that. Don't get me wrong, and this is not a knock against Jalen Brunson, but there's players that shine and are good, like let's say Chris Middleton and Giannis, right? And then there's also players that just make the stars look really good, and it makes them look better than they are. Again, I'm not saying that about Jalen Brunson. I'm just saying, let's not,
Right. And I get it. The Knicks need a point guard. I understand that. But again, for what this team currently is, I don't know how that makes you whatever it is you want to be. And again, the question I have for the Knicks, Jenna, is like, what is your plan, like, as an organization?
What's the blueprint?
Right.
Here?
Like, first of all, the Knicks, the management, Leon Rose and Wesley and all that, they don't have any press conferences, no media availability. They don't say anything about anything, which is bizarre to me. I'm like, everyone knows your business about what you want to do in the draft, yet y'all can't have no press conferences about, here's what our plan is, right?
I think they think that they're too cool, like the coolest kids in school.
The coolest kids in school who've been a laughingstock franchise for the last 2 decades plus. Like, I just don't get it. Like, y'all ain't that cool. Like, you know what I mean? Like, yeah, as an entity, the Knicks make money, cool. But as a product on the floor, if you're a Knicks fan, what, over the last 25 years, what has brought you joy from that team? The Melo run? Linsanity? Like, is this what we're talking about? Like, is this what we're talking about? That's some sad shit.
Practice?
You're right. That is some sad shit, man. Like, I remember
when we wouldn't even curse on this show.
I know. Now I'm like, who cares?
Who gives a shit? Oh my God. Yeah. I mean, hey, they got to figure it out.
I just don't. And look, you have Leon Rose put out a statement last week, basically being like, we have all these picks. We got cap flexibility. We can do some stuff. And it's like, okay, but what are you going to do? Like,
what's the plan here?
Like, are you developing the young guys? How? Obi Toppin hardly gets playing time. Not only that, you also have Cam Reddish on this team. Like, what are we doing here? Like, again, are you going to keep playing Derrick Rose and Taj Gibson and that Evan Fournier deal? Oh, that looks terrible now. Like, it's just all these things that to me, I'm like, I don't get it, man. And Tibbs, he's the got to grind out every win. And it's like, bro, let the young kids develop, man. Like, you could have a future here with these guys, but how are we going to know if we never see them play enough?
Do you think RJ Barrett is on track with where he should be at this point in his
Hell
career?
no.
Or do you think we need to stop saying how many years are we going to be saying RJ Barrett's developing?
Look, he had a good year last season, the season before this one that just completed. He kind of regressed this year, Jenna. And I'm like, now the question is that him or is that the organization? A little bit of both? I don't know. Right? Like, again, Obi Toppin, why'd you draft him if you're going to keep Julius Randle? Look, I said this last year. The Knicks made a mistake by not selling high on Julius Randle. After he made the All-NBA team last year and decided to sign him to that extension, I was all cool with that. But I was like, yo, do a sign and trade because that's the ceiling. He's never going to be better than he was in that season. What happened this season? Nowhere near as good, right? Got into it with the fans, get on the finger. But listen, and once the New York fans start turning on you,
New York fans, they were booing at the draft every time they said New York. I was like, wow, brutal here, brutal in the Barclays Center. But hey, we shall see how the Knicks continue to navigate, which is always entertaining to say the least. Who needs to utilize free agency the most?
It's interesting, Jenna. Like, so it's the teams that are like right at the cusp of contending, and then it's the teams that that are contending already, but they need to be a little help around the fringe. So you're talking about the Lakers, the Nets, the 76ers, these are the teams you're looking at that's like, all right, y'all got to kind of do a little move here. It's maybe the Clippers, right? It's these kinds of teams that are like, ooh, we're right on the edge. Is it a team like Memphis, right? It's like, okay, you know what you got with your core of Ja, Triple J, Desmond Bane, right? But it's like, do we move off of some of those other guys and try to get, another big time player in here, right? And say, okay, we're going to go after it this year. So it seems like that. And the teams that are like on that contending level, right? It ain't the Knicks. Like unless they're going to clear cap space and go after like a big name, but there are no big names available, So and I just got a buzz. I'm sure you got the same thing from McMahon. Yeah. that the Knicks are the strong favorites to sign Jalen Brunson, which we know. I mean, we know
you
that.
You heard it here, kids.
We already know that. Like, what? I mean, and look, that's fine.
I know. I could have tweeted that. Come on.
Again, it's fine, but how does that help? How does that move the needle?
Facts. And you mentioned Memphis. Regardless of the numbers and stuff, because you're the GM, I'm not. Bradley Beal in Memphis.
Again, I think Beal is going to stay in Washington because of the money.
But if he was in Memphis,
so you're saying it would be so for me, if you move Beal, that means Desmond Bane's got to go, right? Like Bane picks, and then you have to get salaries that match, right? So it's Steven Adams. You do a sign and trade. You gotta move some pieces out of there. Because to me, you cannot break up the Ja Triple J. Like, that's got to stay.
No.
That has to stay. So a Beal, Ja Triple J big three, that might be nice, right? But if you're in Memphis, again, as good as Bradley Beal is, what has he shown you in terms of like winning basketball?
Wow.
I mean,
nothing really happens there in Washington.
The collective Grizzly core, those young kids, have advanced as far as Beal has, I think, in his postseason career. I don't think Bradley Beal's been to a conference finals. Let me check that out.
I don't think he has either, because he I was reading something recently about him and Tatum, chatting during the postseason and the finals run. He's mentoring him and all that. But I'm like, again, no shade, but like, Bradley, what are you saying to your guy?
Yes, he has been to the Eastern Conference semis twice. That's it.
Okay.
Never been to a conference finals. He's been to the playoffs 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, 5 times in his career. 5 times in 8 seasons. Okay, but two Eastern Conference semis. So he's gotten as far as the core of the Grizzlies have.
Yeah. So
if I'm Memphis, I don't know that I don't break the bet. I don't mess up what I got going for Bradley Beal. Like I don't know that he. But again, Jenna, I don't think
he's not gonna go. Yeah.
Yeah, he wants to stay in Washington, and I'm not mad at him for getting all his cash, but he's made his decision about what actually matters, right? What's the priority, and it's cool. Make all the money you can, my guy.
For sure. How old is Bradley Beal?
28, I want to say. Let me see. Yeah, 28.
Okay, 28. Yeah, he's coming off the wrist hand surgery.
Mm-hmm.
Say he inks this deal with the Wizards, which pretty much is probably gonna happen.
Done deal.
I mean, hey, now's the time to win in your career. So if you want to go this path, just know what you're gonna do.
Mm-hmm.
That's it.
Yeah, so. I just again, I think it'll be interesting. I think teams will make a lot of sort of like periphery moves. And the other thing to watch in terms of players, Jenna, like it may not be so like the casual fan. It's not going to be like, I don't think a lot of huge names moving, but it might be guys who help you at the margins, right? So the Warriors have an interesting dilemma right now in free agency. So they said they're bringing everybody back. They're already, I want to say 30 million over the luxury tax. I mean,
nice.
It's
nice.
Let's see, mid-level. I'm pulling it up right now. This makes great podcast fodder or copy as I'm searching through who has what. Over the tax. The Warriors are, 23 million over the tax. Okay. So, but they have 2 key free agents in Gary Payton II and Kevon Looney. Now, to the casual fan, they might be like, those players don't matter. I will tell you this. The Warriors do not win the NBA title without Gary Payton II and Kevon Looney. Matter of fact, they don't beat the Grizzlies without Kevon Looney. So this is the thing. Like everyone, Jenna, when they watch the finals or whatever, it's because they got Steph. And Steph is very important. Don't get me wrong. But it's the fringes where you win championships, okay? And those guys are important. So does someone offer Kevon Looney more money than Golden State's willing to pay? Does somebody offer Gary Payton II more money than the Warriors are willing to pay?
Who was it that I saw was going to target Gary?
The Mavericks.
Yes.
The Mavericks.
Yes.
But they're going to have an interesting situation because the Mavericks, too, are over the cap, if I'm not mistaken. Yep, they are $7 million over the tax. So the best they could do is the taxpayer mid-level, I want to say. And I think Golden State will match that at like $8 million because they have his early bird rights, if I'm not mistaken. Now we're getting super deep into the weeds of like cap minutia and early bird rights and like all that stuff. But
if y'all have questions, at JS Hector for that, because your girl ain't over here doing
you're like, I don't know none of that. But like, so these are players like that. And then the Warriors, okay. So they say, okay, we're not going to keep Otto Porter Jr., Bielitsa, and Damian Lee maybe, and we get somebody else. And it's like, okay. And do those guys go somewhere and help on the fringes? You look at players like who are free agents, like Andre Drummond, Patty Mills, who could be a free agent.
What about DeJounte Murray? He's been a big name.
DeJounte Murray
roaming around the news.
Been talked about. So initially I thought, Jenna, that was really about the Spurs just being like kind of doing that thing where it's like, okay, if you want DeJounte Murray, this is what it's going to cost you, right? It's going to cost you major draft picks and all that stuff. That's what I think they were doing more than anything. It seems like there is some, where there's smoke, there's fire. That the Hawks want to get him and pair him with Trae Young. I mean, that's interesting.
Ooh, I just got the chills. I like it. I like it a lot.
And it would send John Collins back to the Spurs. That's interesting. To me, it looks like the Spurs, they figure, well, we're not here trying to eventually get the Superman or rookie max DeJounte Murray, right? If you're bringing Collins back, he's already on a $125 million deal, right? So it's all, to me, it is all interesting. I think again, where there's smoke, there is sometimes fire, but we got to kind of slow down and watch all this stuff play out. The really big news here, Jenna, is that most teams, they don't have cap flexibility. And in order to sign anybody big time, they have to do a lot of maneuvering. And we haven't seen a ton of that up to this point.
And Miles Bridges, did the Hornets come out? They said they were bringing him back, right? I'm not going crazy.
The deal was not offered yet.
Not offered, but I thought they verbally said
but
something.
Yes, but GM Mitch Kupchak said we're bringing him back. So
yes,
what that means to me is that they're haggling over whatever the dollar amount is, right? Bridges' representation and the Hornets are trying to figure out what the number is. So we shall see.
Okay. Not mad at it. And again, honestly, we can predict all we want and talk about it, but free agency, especially in the NBA, is it's
crazy,
bonkers.
Yeah,
so again, things are going to heat up officially on Thursday. So we shall keep you guys posted. We'll be here with you. Don't worry. Now let's talk a little bit about this NBA champion by the name of Draymond Green.
Summer of Draymond continues.
It is the summer of Draymond. It's the summer of Petty. This man actually wakes up and tweets okay, just checking, anybody want to come for the smoke today, basically. So, of course, he goes on the Old Man in the Three live pod. They had it there. There's nothing better than the Old Man in the Three.
Yeah, JJ Redick's pod's great.
So good. So good. JJ Redick is the gift that keeps on giving. But let's stick to the business here, because Draymond gets on the mic. He says, quote, "We would not have beat the Cavs coming back around without Kevin." Of course, we know Kevin is Kevin Durant. Talk to me about this little bit here, because it's getting a lot of traction.
Yeah, so one of the things that gets talked about a ton, particularly this year after the Warriors won, is the Warriors won a title before Kevin Durant and they won a title after him. He wasn't needed. Just plug in Andrew Wiggins and all that. And Draymond basically came out and was like, look, we don't win 2017, 2018 without Kevin Durant. That's just a fact, right? They would not have beaten the Cavaliers without Durant. That's why they went and got him in the first place, right? They knew that, right? They were not going to win against the Cleveland Cavaliers without Durant. And many people would argue they weren't going to win in 2015 when they won their first title had Kevin Love and Kyrie Irving not been injured for the Cavaliers, right? So, let's call things what they are. Now, look, I say this all the time. You need luck when you have to win championships. You have to be good enough, of course, for luck to matter. I always throw this example out here. The Orlando Magic can get all the luck they want. They still the Magic, right? So the Sacramento Kings can get all the luck in the world. You still Sacramento, right? You got to be good enough to take advantage of the luck. And the Warriors were, right? They took advantage of the luck. But yes, they needed Durant to beat the Cavaliers in 17 and 18. And they, in fact, did that. Durant doesn't get hurt in 19. They beat the Toronto Raptors. So, Draymond just kind of doing a thing, putting it out there that we needed Durant. The other thing is that with Draymond and his whole new media, old media, it's him and Perk are beefing. It's just
bad.
It's just drama. The NBA loves this stuff, man. This is how they keep themselves, the NBA is now a 12-month sport, just like how football is, right? The NFL.
Yeah.
It's 12 months out of the year, we got something to talk about, right? And so Draymond's going to be doing podcasts, going on. Remember, I said this last week. He said, don't fuck around and let us win a championship. Yo, this is going to be summer of Draymond. We said this last week. He is not going to stop talking and being places. Going to be everywhere.
You can't be mad at it, really.
Right.
He warned us.
He
not
told, right.
He gave us the answers to the open book test.
Exactly. And we failed.
That's it. Side note, I went on the Real Deal podcast hosted by Courtney Harden, spoke about us in our story, Jarod. It was very heartfelt. You should go listen to it. And I told everybody that you should be a GM.
Oh, nice. I love it. I love it.
Oh, yeah. So much Jarod talk.
Shout out to teams who should hire me as a GM. I love that.
Love it. I'll campaign for you.
Want to turn your franchise around? Hire me.
For real though, for real. But yeah, he asked me about my thoughts about this new media, whatever, I guess how you want to call it. What are your thoughts? I mean, I don't mind it. I think there's should be a seat at the table for everyone.
I don't mind it because it's like funny and some fodder, but in terms of like journalism and covering of the NBA, like capital J journalism, this new media is a problem, right? Because what's going to happen is every athlete's just going to go on their podcast and say their thing, and they're not going to get actual hard questions asked and answered, right? So the fans who want to really get into the nitty gritty of what's going on are not going to be able to get that, right? And part of this is, Jenna, the way that COVID has impacted how coverage happens, locker rooms being closed and all that. Mm-hmm. And the NBA has continued to use COVID as a impediment to stopping that in-person, in the locker room, sidling up access that players, that journalists are used to getting. Now it is open for some people, but it's like, it's limited, right? If you're independent, it's not what it was. And it's going to be tough. So it's going to be a challenge to get, real stories versus athlete propaganda on their platforms.
Yeah, very interesting stuff. But let's chat about Kyrie Irving because, again, like I tweeted the other day, he continues to disturb my peace. I just need a little bit of a break. That's all. But for real, he had until the 29th to determine his future or give us at least a little hint of what he's going to do. And he is opting into that $36.5 million option with the Nets for next season. So they're not out of the woods yet, though. Yes, he's not. They don't have to worry about what could be, basically their most prominent free agent. But talk to me about this situation because I have a feeling that this isn't the last that we have heard about this.
Oh, Jenna, So look, the Brooklyn Nets had a culture of player development, a bunch of guys who wanted to be there, scrappy underdogs, right? Remember when they had that Boston Celtics trade that demolished the Nets franchise, right? They gave Boston all those picks, which turned into Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown and all that, right? And everybody's like, wow, this Nets team, they suck. They're going to be terrible. Kenny Atkinson came in there and built up guys who teams gave up on. Joe Harris, Spencer Dinwiddie, right? He turned D'Angelo Russell around, turned him into an all-star, right? They drafted well. They got Jarrett Allen, right? Karis LeVert, and they made the playoffs in two years in a row, right? Everybody's like, oh, Nets are turning things around. All of a sudden, Kyrie Irving's like, I'm going home to Brooklyn, and Kevin Durant's coming with me. And now, if you are the Brooklyn Nets and you have a chance to get Kevin Durant, well, I mean, as we always say, in order to win a championship, there's a handful of dudes who you have to have on your team. He's one of those dudes, right? Yep. So, of course, you're going to do whatever to get those guys. But the problem is, Jenna, as I often say, when you bring those players into your organization, you cannot give them carte blanche to run amok and do whatever they want to do within your franchise and make personnel decisions. Part of the deal, now mind you, I know the Nets didn't even want Kyrie. They wanted KD, but they knew in order to get Kyrie, in order to get KD, we got to take Kyrie. All right, fine. Not only did they take Kyrie, they also had to sign DeAndre Jordan, their friend, to that 4-year, $40 million deal. DeAndre Jordan, who's about to find himself out of the NBA very shortly because he's not very good anymore. So what happened there? Well, DeAndre Jordan was benched because he wasn't good. They were playing Jarrett Allen over him. Jarrett Allen, by the way, who is now an NBA All-Star, borderline All-NBA player, right?
You gave him away.
The Nets, you think you maybe could have used Jarrett Allen right now? Yeah, probably. And when Kenny Atkinson would not play DeAndre over Jarrett Allen, KD and Kyrie said, nah, get this dude out of here. Okay. Well, so now the coach is already starting to fracture now because now the guy who held players accountable did whatever. You got rid of him. And they say, bring in Steve Nash. Why do someone with zero head coaching experience? Amazing player, but zero head coaching experience. Why? Yeah. Because Steve Nash is going to let them do whatever they want, right? On the floor, it's like, we're in charge. We don't need your help on anything. Cool. Okay, well, problems, right? So we start that season. Then it's, we can get James Harden. Oh, well, another chance to get one of those dudes. All right, we do that. But in order to get James Harden, what do we have to do? Got to give up Jarrett Allen. Got to give up Karis LeVert, Rodions Kurucs, and here's the kicker. And control of your draft for the next 7 years. Okay. We get James Harden.
Guess we're planning for the future, guys.
We get James Harden. We make the Eastern Conference semifinals, but Harden busts up his hamstring. Kyrie's hurt, and the Nets losing 7 games in the conference semis. Next year, Kyrie doesn't want to get the vaccine. James Harden's annoyed. He forces his way out. So let me get this straight. I gave up control of my draft for 7 years. I gave up Jarrett Allen, Karis LeVert, Rodion Kurucs, and I no longer have James Harden now. Cool. I get back in return Ben Simmons, Seth Curry, and Andre Drummond. Okay, nice pieces. Ben Simmons could be very good, but this is a man that hasn't played basketball in over a year and suffered from a serious meltdown the last time we saw him play for the Philadelphia 76ers.
Yeah.
And now KD is like, well, I don't know. I'm having questions about this organization. It's like, well, my guy, the questions you have are because of moves you endorsed and made. This is why they are where they are. Don't you think they'd be in a lot better shape right now if they had KD, Kyrie, Karis LeVert, Jarrett Allen, Spencer Dinwiddie, and all those picks? I think they'd be in a lot better shape today than they are right now. But, that's the problem, right? Those guys only want dudes that they know. No, these are the guys we got to get, this and that. And I say that, Jenna, to juxtapose what goes on in Golden State with the Warriors. Stephen Curry has just as much say-so and influence over that organization as Durant does over the Nets. However, Stephen Curry trusts Joe Lacob, trusts Bob Myers, trusts Steve Kerr. They're going to put the right pieces around. They're going to let those guys develop, and we're going to be just fine. Oh, lo and behold, look what happens. We win the championship, right? We got and not only that, we got a bridge for right now where we can keep winning, and we got a bridge to the future.
Yeah.
Brooklyn, what y'all got?
Talk about a good backup plan, man.
What y'all got, Brooklyn? You got a player. You got a player in Kyrie Irving and by the way, kudos to the Nets because they are taking back control of their franchise. They're like, hell no, we're not giving Kyrie
about
a 5-year
time.
It's like, bro, you don't come to work. Why would I give you 5 years and $240 million and I don't know if you're going to show up? And everybody's like, oh, last year was different because of the vaccine. Year before, he needed PTO after the January 6th Capitol insurrection. He took a week off for his birthday. Listen, every year it's going to be
people
something.
Are missing the
Kyrie.
births of their kids. I'm sorry, not to interrupt you,
No
but
doubt.
people miss the births of their children to play. Like,
I look,
priorities.
this is a man
don't miss the
who
birth of your child, please.
You cannot count on, Jenna. He is not reliable as an employee. We talk about this all the time. It is so hard to win in this league, right? It's fucking hard, man.
Yeah, let it out.
Why are you going to have someone on your team who makes it even harder than it already is? Right? Like, it's already difficult to win, right? Most people would say Giannis, Jokic, so, you could argue best players in the world, right? And shout out to my guy David Thorpe for making this point. Between the two of them, they have one ring, Jenna. They've been to one finals, right? And those are two of the best players in the world, maybe the two best players in the world, right? It's hard to win. Why am I going to sign up to have someone who actively makes it more difficult than it has to be? Literally, he actively chooses to make it harder than it has to be.
Right. And now there's a media firestorm around your organization 24/7. You're getting ripped apart every day. It's got to be exhausting to be asked about it every day.
And last season, Jenna, I know this for a fact. As much as the Nets players said publicly, oh, it's Kyrie's decision, whatever about the vaccine, that shit pissed them off because they got annoyed every time they went on a losing streak or whatever. Oh, if Kyrie was there, they were tired of answering that shit. Look, he is a supremely talented player. As Andre Iguodala has said, as people have said, maybe one of the most skilled players ever one of the most skilled players in the history of this game. That's all well and good. But if you don't show up to work to put those skills on display so we can win, I don't care how skilled you are. It don't help me, right?
Yeah.
It doesn't help. And again, If it's not the vaccine, it's going to be something else. So let's put all that aside. He also gets injured often, right? So you add that to the equation. There's no guarantee this guy's going to play 82 games. So the Nets, so him opting into his deal, his $36 million, now he can still be traded, and that works for the Nets, right? Because that's an expiring contract that a team that may want to get off of another contract and clear cap space. All right, we'll take Irving on for, half a year, and then we'll let him go, and, we'll see what happens. And then we'll see, what does the free agent market look like for him? Because you remember, the Nets gave him the option to explore sign-in trades or whatever.
Yeah.
The reason why it didn't happen was because nobody wanted him. They were like, yo, man, you mad talented, but again, I don't know if you're
drama.
We don't want drama, and I don't know if you're going to be here. Are you going to show up? I don't even know.
Right. And of course, I mean, everybody has heard at this point the Lakers having interest in him. What are your thoughts about that?
Well, the only way they could have gotten him was if he declined his option, became a free agent, and took the mid-level exception, right? Or something. But they're not now. I mean, Russell Westbrook already opted in. The Nets do not want Russell Westbrook back in any trade. Like, he's not very good, right? So no, this is what this is. Look, again, kudos to the Nets. Here's the deal. What I would do if I'm them. You got Kyrie, right? He's got the $36 million. It's expiring. So if another team wants to clear cap space, and you can potentially go after another player who is reliable, who shows up, maybe not as talented as Kyrie, but going to be there on time. And you're like, you know what? We'll take him on. Cool. Now, you might be saying, Jarod, but that might piss off Kevin Durant. Newsflash, folks. Kevin Durant is under contract for 4 more years. Okay. Now, he can force his way out like stars do. One, that's going to be a bad look for him. So if I'm Joe Tsai, I'm like, I mean, if you want to risk your reputation by forcing a trade, by all means do that. Now, we will happily trade you, but we're going to trade you to where we want to trade you to get back as much as we have. Because let's be correct about something. If a team has a chance to get Kevin Durant under contract for 4 years, they're going to trade all kinds of stuff. A bunch of picks, a bunch of young talent. And guess what that means for the Nets? They can rebuild. Get the draft capital back. Now we're ready to roll. So if I'm the Nets, I'm seriously considering moving Kyrie. And if Durant bucks, hey, fine by us. We're going to trade you too.
The plan, Jarod's plan, out in the open, officially out there.
Putting it out there, man. You gotta listen. You need these guys, but you have to find a way to collaborate and work with them and not let them dictate what you're doing. And I saw that report from Logan Murdoch, and I have no reason not to trust it, right? Like, because Logan Murdoch has a relationship with KD from his time back in the Bay with the Warriors, and he did travel with the team for a bit this past season to get that profile done on Durant. And the talk is supposedly Durant is upset that the front office didn't take the time to understand and get to know Kyrie. Man.
What?
Understand and get to know what? The man is Looney Tunes, okay? And he thinks he's the smartest person in the room everywhere he goes, right? We saw what he tweeted against Stephen A about pawns, and I don't hang out with many dudes who are 50-year-olds, but my dad and my uncle can come see you because they get it, and keep your third eye open, all that stupid shit about, listen. Again, Kyrie's a brilliant basketball player, but my dude, you ain't Confucius, you ain't Hegel, right? You ain't some world-renowned, genius scholar. Like, you ain't that, okay? Calm down with all that noise. You are someone who literally wants your cake and eat it too. You want to get a Supermax deal and come to work when you want to come to work and do whatever. And I'm sorry, if I have a team and I'm an owner and it is my money, I am not paying money for someone who I know won't come to work. That's bad business. Why would I do that? That's insanity. No.
I mean, this is going to be really interesting. I mean, we'll see how it plays out. But it's just, at one point, the rumors were just flying everywhere. And I was thinking to myself, wow, could you imagine just looking around and all you see is Ben Simmons left? It's
and guess what? But here's the thing.
Going on.
If that's what they have left eventually, Jenna, with all the haul they would get back for KD, that's a good place to build from. Because all the things said about Ben Simmons, this is an all-NBA, multiple-time All-Star, and an all-defensive guy. If the Nets invest all the resources in getting his mind right, getting his body right, connecting and tapping into him, right? Coach Thorpe always says leadership is breathing spirit into the hearts and minds of others. If they are able to connect with Ben on a human level and get to his heart, and that sounds cheesy, but touch him there, that could be a whole different thing and change the whole way that he looks at basketball and how he wants to play. You get a bunch of guys in and get your culture back to what you want, the Nets can be right back where they want to be without none of those guys. Look, again, if I'm Sean Marks and Joe Tsai, I am strongly considering that as my course of action because it's very clear that the way that it's currently constructed, our high watermark was Game 7 against the Bucks 2 years ago. That's as best as it's going to get because, again, you cannot count on Kyrie Irving. If he was someone, Jenna, who's going to be there 100% of the time, give all his effort, I'd be like, oh, hell yeah, that's but I know for a fact he won't. He's shown us repeatedly he will not do that. So, yeah, I'm good.
Man, I would love to be a fly on the wall. I just want to know what KD is saying at this point. It's like, how much can you defend it? You know?
I mean, you can't, right?
Right.
And KD said, on his podcast, I'm not getting involved in a Kyrie thing. We'll still be friends, brothers, no matter what happens here. I hope that is the approach you take, Kevin. And I hope you allow Sean Marks and the front office to do their job and trust them to put the right pieces around you. Yeah. Trust them that okay, I signed up to be with you guys long-term. I trust you guys to do what's right, even though you handcuffed them by forcing DeAndre Jordan and James Harden on them. You did that. That's true. That happened. But, trust them, and maybe they can work some magic.
You're so wise, Jarod. I really value it.
Teams, hire me as your GM.
That's it. Like, come on, let's go. I want sweet tickets, Jarod. Come on. But moving on, let's talk about what's going on in Utah. Okay. Mm-hmm. We knew that Quinn Snyder had stepped down after 8 seasons, successful seasons too, really respected coach in the biz. So we say where there's smoke, there's fire. Was there? Who knows? We'll see. But again, sources telling ESPN that they are looking to hire Boston assistant. Talk to me about this, about Hardy here.
Yeah. A good hire. Hardy was brought over by Udoka when he got the head job, and he's he's a solid, a really good head coach, a really good assistant coach, and we'll see where it all goes from there. Right? They knew they had to make a move, and they did it. And the question more for Utah is, what's going on with Donovan Mitchell and Rudy Gobert? Which one of those dudes are you moving off of, trading, doing what have you, right? That's the question. Or are you moving both? One and or both? What's
if you're
happening?
Moving both, then you're starting a rebuild.
Correct.
Yeah.
And you can probably get quite a haul, again, depending on who has the space to absorb, et cetera, all that. So those are two names, again, going back to free agency, Jenna, that could potentially move are Rudy Gobert and or Donovan Mitchell.
Yeah, interesting stuff there too, because again, rumors flying that Donovan is pissed, he's unhappy. So interesting stuff there. And again, I don't think him and Gobert really patch things up from the whole COVID issue and all that. So interesting to see who the Jazz stick with. And also another hire there too in the front office, David Fizdale becoming an associate general manager, according to ESPN, which correct. We know that hire was probably fueled by Dwayne Wade, good friend.
Dwayne, for sure. Right. Because you're going to work with Danny Ainge in that front office and figure out what they're doing over there in Utah. Maybe rebuild time. We'll see.
Yeah.
Or rebuild around, all right, Donovan Mitchell's the guy, and we're going to try to figure out how to move Rudy. The thing about Rudy is he's such a unique player. It's got to go to the right team where it fits, right? And what is a team willing to give up that makes sense, So
who needs some defense?
Who needs defense, but who also has perimeter defenders on their team so that Rudy isn't covering for everyone like he was in Utah.
Yep. A little bit of overworking maybe there in Utah, which is why he may be unhappy. Who knows? Just guessing. But that is all we got, guys. But don't worry, because as soon as we stop recording this, I'm sure there's going to be 12,000 more rumors next week. So,
no doubt.
We'll be here.
Yes, of course, we are part of the Props Network. You can find us on Twitter at 7FootersPod, on Instagram at 7FootersPodcast. We're on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, Stitcher, SoundCloud, all that, at JS Hector, at Jenna Lemoncelli. And until next time, everybody, take care.
Peace.
Spent a couple years out here with these raps, trying to have a plan that we made come true. Applied to some jobs, but I ain't hit back. I don't want to trap with